Hi guys, welcome back to another month of Take 5 art prompts. This month's prompts were chosen by Amira. I really enjoy the process of creating with these prompts. And bonus, I also really enjoyed the end result, which, let's face it, does not always happen when you're creating. I wanted to also mention, I'm just blabbering away today. I'm going to try and do this voiceover in one go because my husband took the kids out to play in the snow. So bear with me as I ramble along. But I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that it's really important as you add colors to your pages or your spread in this case that you dry every layer in between. So after the gesso I dried, after the first color that I used with the fan brush, I dried that. Every single color that I added, I dried it. That way your colors don't mix together and become muddy. This way it just looks like layer on top of layer and you're able to see all of the colors kind of together in harmony. I also wanted to give a special shout out to that fan brush. That little swooshy technique that I did was really fun to do. You will be seeing that again in the future. So all of these colors that I put down was basically two prompts in one. The first prompt being complementary color scheme. And that was really rough for me. So I actually looked on Pinterest, which is a suggestion that I got from Anna. Thank you very much. Fabulous tip. So I basically just chose a color palette that, gave me a good vibe. I wanted something that had yellow, which is one of the Pantone colors of 2021. And I really just want to shove that color everywhere so I can get all of the good vibes for 2021. OMG. Goodbye, 2020. In any case, I also wanted to mention that for each different color, I tried to use a somewhat different brush. So this is basically how I created my background technique, trying to kind of play around with different brushes and see what happens. For the record, I'm fully aware that I'm low-key screaming at you guys. I don't think that I have done a single voiceover in 2020 without kids in the background, and for some reason that means that I get louder. Anywho, on to the next. For my focal image representing the new year for me, I just created a simple illustration of me in the most peaceful pose I could create, which is just sitting still. God, what a dream to just be able to sit still and breathe. Wow. That's my goal for 2020. Spoiler alert. I just want to breathe, okay? So I created this in yet another repurposed book, which is one of my favorite things to paint with gouache. This is a little gouache kit that I created in this Bob Ross tin that Anna gifted me a couple of years ago. I can't believe we've been friends for years now. Oh my God. Time flies. And so I just added some more. She actually is the one that got me started in my obsession with gouache. She gifted them to me from her own kit, which she then proceeded to not use for another year as I was like in full gouache obsession. Anyway, I digress. Gouache is awesome. I've explained this before and many people have also said it, where basically the best description for gouache is if watercolor and acrylic got married and had a baby. The baby is gouache. And yes, I'm saying bebe like Moira from Schitt's Creek because there's no other way to say bebe after she has said it that way. In any case, I love gouache because it's more opaque than watercolor and it dries fast like watercolor does, but you still have some wiggle room to move it around. Whereas with acrylic, like you put it down, I don't know what you do after you make a mistake with acrylic. I don't even have the time to find out. So this is me trying to be peaceful and just trying to find some center in all of the madness. And you'll see that I, of course, am painting my hair as gray. I don't really think that I've shown my gray hair in all of its grayness here in the YouTubes. But if you follow me on Instagram, and if you don't, why aren't you? Then you're probably sick of seeing my gray hair. But 2020, as I created this illustration, I realized it was the year of going gray for me. What? I basically stripped all of the black hair dye in December 2019, which is also the month that I met Anna in person. Fun facts galore in this video, apparently. And yeah, so this is the year that I went gray. Gray is my current natural color in this phase of my life. And I just came to the realization that I was tired of letting society tell me that I have to continue to pour chemicals onto my scalp to fit into whatever mold of I don't know what. And the freedom is real, guys. So if you're out there and you're sick of dyeing your hair, whatever color you're dyeing it, because you don't want the world to see you have gone gray, let me be the one to tell you, let that shit go and just go gray and just do what you got to do and live your best life. And I have to admit, I have never gotten more hair compliments in my life. And either everyone is just being really kind, including strangers that have no reason to compliment me, or there is something to be said about being yourself and feeling good about that, feeling okay about that, and just feeling like it me. And if you like it, you like it. And if you don't, you don't. So anyway, here I'm attaching this chick after I've cut her out into the middle of this abyss of color. And I just love her already. I love that she's just sitting there and just being, even though there might be like a world of chaos around her. Is it chaos? Is it not? I don't know. As I was rambling, you saw that I was writing a bunch of words onto the scraps that were left from the page that I cut her out of. And I basically wrote a bunch of the feelings that I want to leave in 2020. And this is something that my family has done over the years. Right before the clock strikes 12, we kind of we have written all of these words, these things that we want to leave behind, and then we throw them into the fire. We happen to have a fireplace. I do not recommend that you burn things in your house unless you have a fireplace. But pre-fireplace life, my mom and I would just kind of burn it in the kitchen sink. Again, I don't recommend that either. But another thing that you can just do is just to tear those words up as the clock strikes 12. Tear it up and imagine them leaving your life. So I wrote a bunch of words and I tore them up, and now I'm just adding them into this page so that it looks like she's exhaling them and kind of just getting rid of all of that negativity. Just blow that shit away. Sorry for the excess cursing in this video. I don't even know what's up with me. 2020, I'm so over it. I'm just like, apparently I have no filter for the YouTubes. So I hope that I'm not offending anyone with my language. Trust me, my language is way worse than that. I have spared you. Okay, so the next thing that I'm doing is adding some detail in black. This was a really enjoyable part of this spread for me. You won't be able to tell because this is like 4 times the speed, I think. And but I sat with it for a minute after attaching all of those little like words pieces. I sat there kind of going, what the heck am I going to do in black and white? I have no idea. But I knew that the spread looked really incomplete. It looked unfinished. And by the grace of God, it occurred to me to draw leaves or some leaf-like looking thing for her to be gazing at or sitting among or whatever. And it popped so nicely with the black. I was so grateful for that black prompt in this moment. What I was not grateful for was needing to create the stems for said leafery with a tiny paintbrush, which is a great paintbrush, but it just wasn't doing it for me in the amount of time that I wanted it to be done. I wanted it done like nah. And so instead I just decided to dry everything and then just use a Sharpie. The wonderful thing about mixed media is that your tool options are endless. So I was able to add stems easily with that. And now I am adding my other prompt, which is my word of the year. And yes, I gave you a spoiler alert before, and my word of the year is just to dang breathe. Last year, I chose a word that I don't even remember because it was like it was a do all the things kind of word. You know, none of us knew what 2020 had in store. And it was around early March or mid March when our quarantine in Chicago began, where I was faced with the reality of we're not going to do all the things. We're just going to try and like live. And so I in the early part of I guess the first quarter of 2020, I changed my word, something I had never done before. But it's a good lesson. You can choose a word of the year. If the word no longer serves you come March, April, May, come middle of the year, whenever, then change it. So I did. I changed my word to balance because that's what I needed in 2020. And I sought balance. Did I achieve it? No. But it was a great reminder that I didn't have to force things. If it wasn't helping me feel good about myself, if it wasn't helping my family in any way, I don't have to do things just because there are things to be done. And the balance that I was looking for was more of an emotional balance because 2020 was so feelings heavy. And so I just wanted to make sure that I created space and time for my feelings and to acknowledge my feelings and to say, oh, that's right. We're in the middle of a pandemic. I'm allowed to feel angry and sad and depressed and anxious and all of those things. So balance for me in 2020 became about sitting and listening to what my feelings were telling me and then doing based on that. Truth be told, a lot didn't get done in 2020, and that didn't always feel good, but it's what I needed, and so be it. And now we get to come into a new year and kind of figure out what we need then. And based on what I experienced in 2020, I just want to breathe fresh air and like exhale the BS and inhale nothing but good vibes and be able to be a source of positive energy for myself, my friends, my family, this world that there's so much going on in. And so, yeah, breathe is my word of the year. All right, so now the last prompt that I needed to check off my list was the white, which was part of the black and white. Actually, this is not the last prompt. And this one was tricky. So the white showed really well on the leaves, so then I can check that box. I did the white, we done. But on the hand lettered or the faux lettered word breathe, it didn't show very well. And I realized that because the leaves were only acrylic, then it had enough like bumpy texture for the white to kind of scrape off on. Whereas the word breathe, I did it mainly with markers and that had more of a glossy effect. And so the gel pen was just kind of slipping and sliding everywhere. It wasn't attaching to anything, but it is what it is. We're moving on. This is the last prompt, which is to use the same colors that you used in the beginning, but in a different way. Boy, that was tricky, Amira. I had no idea what to do. I sat with that for a good 5 minutes, and then it just occurred to me to add some extra elements using the same colors. In this case, I'm creating these little flower buds using the dull part of a pencil or just the back end of a pencil. And that's what I did for the yellow. And then with the pink and the blue and even some of the yellow as well, I just decided to bring them onto the girl's body and to kind of make it, well, you don't really know. Are the colors around her coming from her, or is she absorbing those colors into herself? I don't know. I like to think about things like this, really just like, let's get deep now. But I love what it turned out, or how it turned out. It kind of, there's like some sloppy shadow work, which I discovered in this process that I enjoy. I'm not very good at creating shapes or shadows or like depth with shadows. That's something I still need to practice. But I discovered that it's also really nice to make sloppy kind of shadow work. Why do we try to create this perfection that other people seem to do? Stop that shit. Anyway, guys, I'm going to cut my rambling off here because this video gets cut off because I was also plagued by tech problems. story of my life. 2020 just will not relent. But I hope that you enjoyed this process. I hope that you learned a thing or two. I hope that you were mildly entertained by my rambling. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit like. It tells the algorithm that other people might enjoy it too. And if you haven't already subscribed, or if you aren't following me on Instagram, I hope that you will consider doing so. I really do enjoy connecting with all of you. So if you have a question or a comment, leave it down below. I answer all of my comments. Many people claim to. I actually do. I hope that this new year brings you nothing but blessings and all the good vibes. See you next time, guys. Bye-bye.